So you want to invest in a rental property and you start wondering, should you buy a fixer-upper rental property or should you buy something that's more rent ready? Like it's ready to go. It doesn't need really any rehab. This could be a turnkey property or rent ready, whatever term you want to use. My answer, it depends. It depends on actually quite a few factors. A very simple factor, are you local to the property or is this going to be an out-of-state property? If you're local, do whatever you want. Like you can manage your rehab and all that. But if you go out of state, I'm a huge out-of-state investor, so I think it can be a great strategy. But if you're trying to take on a rehab and fix up a distressed property not local to you, I personally think you're taking on a whole lot of risk doing that. Unless for some reason you're very experienced and you're very seasoned and you already have a team in place and you know where you're buying, then it can work. But if you're a newer investor and you're just thinking, oh, well, I'll rehab out of state. Well, maybe, but like just understand the risk spectrum on all this. So that's one factor, is where's the property in relation to where you are? What is your skill set? This could be kind of in two ways. Either one, like what is your physical, like handyman skill set? Like, can you do some of the work yourself? Are you, I'd say if you're super handy, you should absolutely get a distressed property and fix it up because you can make greater profit margins on that. But if you're like me and you're not handy at all, you know, if you have to pay a contractor for everything and you don't really know what you're doing, you know, that's one end of the skill set, is like, can you actually do the work or have some kind of understanding of the work in order to manage it properly? Another part of the skill set, regardless of how handy you might be, is how much investing experience do you have? So, you know, I have a video that it says, are turnkey rental properties good for new investors or good for newbies? You can look for that video. I'll link to it in the comments. But, you know, if you buy something rent ready or turnkey, in my opinion, if you're brand new into investing, that allows you to really spend time learning the fundamentals, like how to run numbers on the property, how to choose a property, how to do due diligence on the property. And honestly, those skills and those pieces of knowledge are the most important thing as an investor, regardless of what strategy you're doing. So, you know, if you are brand new and you haven't learned those things, if you suddenly take on a big rehab job, you're now taking on advanced skills that you have to do and succeed with on top of learning the basics. So back, you know, like I said, skills. What are your physical skills as far as like, can you do the work yourself? Do you know how to do a rehab? Do you know what to look for in a property that you're going to rehab? Do you know all those things? But are you a beginner or a more advanced investor? Like, if you're a beginner investor and you don't even know the fundamentals, and God forbid it's also out of state, you just dive into rehabbing a distressed property, like you really are putting some marks on the risk spectrum. Like you always want to be thinking of that, is where are you landing on the risk spectrum? So, okay, so we talked about the skills, multiple types of skills, whether you should do a rehab job or a turnkey property. We talked about, are you local to the property or out of state? Another one is, what's your interest level? If you know anything about me, you know that my interest is not working in my properties at all. I prefer to hang at the beach, go snowboarding. I also like to ski. I'm actually starting to like skiing more than snowboarding. I basically want to do anything other than manage a real estate investment or a rehab. I had a property that was originally in great shape, but I ended up with a bad tenant in it, and he lit the fireplace with the flue closed and left for hours, smoked out the entire house, ended up having a $25,000 rehab. It was extensive. And I knew my contractor. He's a great guy. I flew to Georgia where the property was. I live in LA. And I stayed there for 2 weeks to help kind of manage this rehab because, like I said, it was an extensive one. I hated my life during those 2 weeks. I was running to Home Depot every 5 seconds. Traffic was terrible. It was hot. It was in the middle of summer in Georgia. And, you know, I don't like managing contractors. So just from the interest perspective alone, I don't want to do any of that. Like that doesn't bring joy to me. Whereas a lot of people, it may bring a lot of joy. So you really want to think about, like, do you want to be doing this? Because you also don't want to, you know, if you try and maximize your financial returns, but you're hating your life in the meantime, is it worth it? Whereas if you pay more for a turnkey or a rent-ready property, you get to keep your sanity. And if you guys have not checked out my new book that just launched this summer, it's called Not Your How-To Guide to Real Estate Investing, Life Lessons for Hacking Your Mind Before You Hack Your Wallet. I'll put a link in the comments. I have a whole chapter in there called The 3 True Currencies. For me personally, I have decided there are 3 true currencies in life, and they are time, sanity, and then the one we all know is money. We all think in terms of money, and it's like, you know, even if I get higher returns on this distressed property, am I losing sanity? And in that case, time. I lost 2 weeks. Well, I can say I lost 2 weeks of my life. It wasn't that bad, but you know, I lost hours every day to managing this rehab job, and my sanity was out the window. So it's like, at that point, is it really worth saving some money or getting a little extra return to, you know, and when I have to sacrifice my time and sanity? And what I may lose time and sanity on, other people may not. Like I said, some people may love rehabbing a property and it actually helps their sanity. So in those cases, right on, go do it. For me, I lose every ounce of sanity I own when I try and do one of these projects. So when you're thinking about, do I buy the distressed property and fix it up, or do I do a turnkey and rent-ready property? From the financial perspective, if you know what you're doing and you don't hit any major challenges, you will probably get higher returns from doing they call it value add project, or the BRRRR model: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. I hate that acronym, it's confusing. So the BRRRR model, or the value add, but buying distressed property and improving it, there is a lot of financial gain by doing that, and that's what tempts people to do it. But I don't think you should necessarily do that if you don't have the time, skill, or interest to do it, because people think that they're just going to go do it and it's going to work. I can't tell you how many half rehab jobs I've seen in the properties that I've ended up going to see, because people start in on this project, have no idea what they're getting into, and they end up either losing the money on it or they quit or something, and now you have a half rehab property that's going to waste. So, you know, it's not a flawless model, but you can make higher financial returns. Whereas like something rent ready or turnkey, you're probably going to pay more like market value with no real way to improve it for the forced appreciation. So you have the monetary considerations, you have the location considerations, you have your time, sanity versus money considerations, and your skill level considerations. So don't think when you dive into real estate that you have to go do this value add. If it works and it makes sense and you're interested in it and you have the skill for it and you have the resources to actually know what you're doing, rock on, go for it. But, you know, don't think that the turnkey or the rent ready model is bad, because it can be a fantastic start. Even if you want to graduate into rehabbing a property later, then so do it. But like, start slow, learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, and that way you're not diving straight into the deep end, potentially without floaties on your arms. And, you know, you don't want to completely mess things up to large scale. So again, there's no right answer. And like I said, when someone asks me which one they should do, it depends. It depends on so many factors that I mentioned. So really sit down and think about it for yourself. Like, what would make the most sense for your particular situation?